No, I assure you, what I'm describing here is actually very real, and it is something that does not bode well for the future of Uganda. I say this because my friends, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the son of the current president of Uganda, and yes, I'm using air quotes there, is set to become the next leader of the country as his ailing father continues to age. Now, if what I am describing there sounds like an exaggeration, I assure you, it is not. This guy is actually kind of insane.
Yep.
What I mean by that is that he also demanded, and I kid you not, the most beautiful woman in Turkey to be.
He goes on to say, and I kid you not, he brings the receipts. On top of the $1 billion from Turkey, I want the most beautiful woman in that country for a wife.
In 2022, we had the Meloni bride price incident, because when Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni would go and rise to power, Muhoozi would publicly propose marriage to her on Twitter, offering 100 Ankole cows as a traditional bride price for her.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Live Political Commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
I cannot appreciate you enough for using your valuable time to always go on social media, break down things for people.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the military general who happens to be the commander of Uganda's defense forces, doubles as the son of the current president of the Republic of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So as Muhoozi Kainerugaba continues to dominate Uganda's social media with a bizarre mix of threats, grandiose declarations, and controversial political statements, the reaction beyond Uganda is increasingly one of shock, one of disbelief, and in sometimes outright laughter. From talking about marrying Beyonce, who happens to be a married wife to Jay-Z, to threatening Kenya and making extraordinary statements about tax women, Muhoozi's online outbursts have created a spectacle that seems almost impossible to explain. It is insane. Yet beneath the bizarre rhetoric is something far more disturbing. A powerful military figure openly interesting himself into Uganda's political battles, while opponents and critics continue to be abducted, tortured, disappeared, killed on his orders, where he orders his Special Force Command Gestapo thugs to go and abduct people, torture them, gloats on social media after having them abducted and tortured. So now the outsiders, the outside world is asking a question. What exactly is happening in Uganda? So I came across this YouTuber who was completely mind blown by the extraordinary things coming out of Muhoozi's social media accounts. His reaction captures the disbelief of someone watching from outside as Uganda's military leadership becomes increasingly intertwined with political power, threats, and social media theatrics. Of course, by Muhoozi Kainerugaba. From Beyonce, like I said, then to Kenya, from those bizarre declarations to political intimidation. This is the Muhoozi phenomenon that has left even the outsiders asking, how did Uganda get here? Now, I'm going to go on and show you this guy who couldn't believe. I was laughing, which is really sad. Laughter is a weapon I'm using to deflect myself from the sadness I feel to my motherland being led by a sociopath, a psychopath, a completely insane person, and being defended by ostensibly educated, traveled, learned, smart people.
Oh, well, the next dictator of Uganda is going to be wild. Our friends, imagine, if you will, a politician and military leader whose social media posts make the most outlandish of U.S. President Donald Trump's Truth Social statements look like, I don't know, positively university-level dissertations or something like that. Just imagine this. Imagine that scenario. Crank that dial up to a 12 out of 10 on whatever proverbial scale you might try to use, and now give that politician with a severe penchant for violence and torture over hurt feelings his own private...
Violence and torture over hurt feelings. How low can we get? order somebody and torture them because your feelings are hurt. And you're the commander of Uganda's defense forces. I don't know whether this gentleman is going to mention, but a graduate of Royal Sandhurst Military Academy.
Security force that is perfectly willing, able, and experienced in kidnapping journalists off the frickin' street, throwing them in said politician's basement dungeon, and then having their way with them. Like, look, I know it sounds absurd. It sounds crazy when I'm saying this. It sounds like the beginning of some kind of crazy hit piece being thrown into some political tabloid or on your crazy uncle's Facebook page or something like that. But no, I assure you, what I'm describing here is actually very real, and it is something that does not bode well for the future of Uganda. I say this because, my friends, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, the son of the current president of Uganda, and yes, I'm using air quotes there, is set to become the next leader of the country as his ailing father continues to age. And when he finally passes, this will be a problem not just for Uganda, but also wider parts of Africa and even potentially the world.
That's true. That's true.
Now, if what I am describing there sounds like an exaggeration, I assure you, it is not. This guy is actually kind of insane.
Yep.
What I mean by that is that we recently have a perfect example of exactly this. Kainerugaba would go and issue an ultimatum to the country of Turkey in a series of X posts on Saturday, April 11th, 2026, demanding, and I kid you not, $1 billion as a security dividend, as he argued that Ugandan troops were deployed in Somalia to help fight the al-Qaeda-linked al-Shabaab organization. And he said that while Turkey benefited economically from Somalia's infrastructure, Uganda bore the human cost of this mission. But not only did he demand $1 billion, which in and of itself, maybe not, it's like outlandish, but it's not so insane necessarily when talking about economic compensation, he also demanded, and I kid you not, the most beautiful woman in Turkey to be...
He goes on to say, and I kid you not, he brings the receipts. On top of the $1 billion from Turkey, I want the most beautiful woman in that country for a wife.
Given to him as his wife, because I guess that is just something that you can say, I guess. And he suggested that Turkey has to...
Because I guess that's something you just say.
surrender the wives to make...
Turkey has to surrender the wives. Okay.
to him as his wife, because I guess that is just something that you can say, I guess. And he suggested that Turkey has to surrender the wives to maintain peace. Again, no exaggeration here. That is actually what happened. To that end, the military chief would go and warn that his country could cut ties with Ankara in 30 days, close its embassy in Kampala, and ban Turkish airlines from using Ugandan airspace if these demands were not met. And that is pretty much it. I genuinely do not know what else there is to say without myself sounding like some kind of tabloid or something like that. These posts on X were later deleted on Sunday the 12th, like literally the next day, but by then the damage had already been done diplomatically. So that just seems like a giant waste of everyone's time. But you know what? You also probably waste a lot of your own time too when you're just sitting there on your phone doom scrolling when you could actually...
This is, I think, a commercial. Let's jump right here.
We'll just do something to pass the time. So yeah, that is a thing. And hey, you know what the weirdest part about me saying all this is? This is not the first time that a similar incident has happened, nor is it the first time that he has demanded female attention in some way, shape, or form. And I cannot believe that I am saying this right now, but yes, that is actually true. So let's just run through some highlights, if you will, at the beginning of this video. And I know also at the time that I'm saying this, just to get out of the way, because I see the comments that usually come into my videos here, I am traveling right now. Yes, I know things happened with a potential assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and the people are blaming me from the very get-go. I understand that. But forgive me for potential camera quality and or mic quality, because I am in a hotel in Italy because my sister is getting married. Anyway, speaking of Italy, and that's why I made that transition in the first place, in 2022 we had the Meloni bride price incident. Because when Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni would go and rise to power, Muhoozi would publicly propose marriage to her on Twitter, offering 100 Ankole cows as a traditional bride price for her. Now, Ankle cattle, with their massive curved horns, for anyone who's curious about this, and I know my editor's going to put up some images of them, they are very culturally prized in Uganda, going back thousands of years. So, in his framing, this was a very serious offer. But he didn't stop there. He added that if his proposal was rejected, that his army would go and capture Rome. Yes, like some kind of barbarian warlord. Maloney, who was already in a
Capture Rome. Like a barbarian warlord.
relationship at the time, never really publicly responded, but the Italian press would treat it as a kind of curiosity, something that was amusing. In Uganda, it became a meme, and he has since made similar bride price jokes about other female world leaders. That's just the thing he would do. Also, in 2022, in a much darker way here, we have the Nairobi capture threat, which was arguably the most consequential post, because he tweeted that, quote, "It wouldn't take us, my army and me, 2 weeks to capture Nairobi," end quote, which is Kenya's capital. He even speculated about which Kenyans would welcome him. So this guy, who is, again, like one of the chief military leaders of the country, is publicly making posts about capturing the capital of another country. This is, of course, extremely alarming, considering that we are talking about the son of the president of the country, who is also a high-ranking military leader, as I said, and so the fallout was initially quite severe. Kenya would go and summon Uganda's High Commissioner to answer for what the hell was happening, and President Museveni of Uganda would go and issue a very rare apology to Kenya and the Kenyan people on behalf of his son. At the same time, Museveni fired Muhoozi from his post as commander of land forces, which at first, okay, that seems like a pretty big deal, but here's the thing. In a move that is seen as softening the punishment, Museveni would then simultaneously promote him to being a full general. Like, look, I know it sounds weird, but here's something you'll learn over the course of this episode. Things will follow a very similar dynamic. Muhoozi acts out, gets real weird, his father scolds him publicly, but then rewards him privately. This is constantly what is going down, and you are going to see why here later. Besides this, though, you have the repeated Holy Land deployment offers, which sounds strange, but yes, there have been multiple of these. Basically, Muhoozi has repeatedly offered Ugandan troops to support Israeli operations, framing...
Yeah, so what we see here is the true definition of a neighbor baby. This is Muhoozi Kainerugaba, a neighbor baby. He's never worked a job in his life. As Museveni was mobilizing our parents and our grandparents to join him to fight the regimes of Obote and Idi Amin Dada and Tito Okello Lutwa, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who was born in Tanzania during the exile of his dad, was having a wonderful time in exile in Tanzania and later on in Sweden. There's the young boys and girls who joined Museveni in that war. Muhoozi wasn't one of them. And surprisingly, this guy, who was a baby, literally like, how old? Like 10-year-old during that time, or 7-year-old, has now surpassed all soldiers in the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Those that have been deployed across different missions in Uganda and across the entire Africa or outside of Africa, and those that fought before he did. He's a general in our military. Of course, not through meritocracy. This is the true definition of nepotism. His dad, ostracizing him in public. Oh, how would you say that to my friends in Kenya? But then promotes him to a rank of a military general.
Himself as a Christian crusader. The numbers would escalate over.
Again, Christian crusader. Again, they have a tendency, all dictators, they have a tendency of using a weapon, religion as a weapon. Always tagging themselves along these religious affiliations or religion themselves. They'll be like, oh, I'm doing this for God. No, you're doing it for yourself.
Time, starting with a vague, thousands, and then eventually, by this year, in 2026, at the time that I'm making this, it would reach 100,000 soldiers. Now, for context, Uganda's entire active military is estimated to be around 45 to 50,000 personnel, which makes the offer mathematically impossible, but I digress. What is really interesting to note about this, though, is that his pro-Israel stance is more unique because Uganda has historically maintained a more balanced position. including economic ties with Iran and Arab states. His tweets have repeatedly forced Uganda's Ministry of Foreign Affairs to issue clarification stating that, okay, his views do not represent the official policy of the country.
And again, that's the excuse they usually use. Oh, those are his views. But you know what? It doesn't make any sense. It is utter and complete nonsense. Because we have so many of our people that have been abducted, and we wondered where they are, who has abducted them, only to find out that, he dispatched his jackbooted thugs to go and abduct our people. And when they are in his hands, takes pictures of them naked after torturing them, post them on social media. So yeah, his posts is the official government position of Uganda. There's no way we can separate Muhoozi Kainerugaba from the stuff he posts, unless he disowns all these social media platforms. But how is he going to do it if he's usually the first one to post, responding to our curiosity about our people that have been abducted? It is a complete crap show. It is sad. And I don't know how we get out of all this, but this is an embarrassment. We're becoming a laughing stock. Like I said, we laugh at all this, but deep inside, or we're using laughter to cover our faces from people seeing the tears our hearts and souls are, crying. It's. I don't even know. I'm speechless. I don't even have to describe words to describe. How do you have? I mean, there's only one person who would behave like Muhoozi Kainerugaba. This would be a terrorist. We know what they do. They usually launch attacks, kill people, and go on social media, gloat. See, we've attacked this place and we've killed these people. I don't know any military leader across the entire world that does what Muhoozi does. You might argue, oh, they do, but they do not, broadcast their nefarious actions on social media. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Who does that? There's no shame. There's no remorse. It is utter, pure evil. Surprisingly, he's got supporters in Uganda. I've never understood that. Even the most hated man in the world will have people who support him on his agenda, on his openly evil agenda. You have people on social media in Uganda, many of them who belong to my tribe. I belong to the tribe of Muhoozi Kainerugaba. I am a Munyankore. Many of them from my tribe, not all, but many of them. Usually, I see them attacking me. They look at him as some sort of a visionary leader that either duped, indoctrinated with this idea that, hey, if a Munyankore is supposed to support this man, or desire for proximity to power, they want money or positions, or they're just utterly stupid. Because how do you identify with a man? I mean, is it delusion or what? Oh, I'm not going to say what because I know I am safe now. Wait till you read the poem of Martin Yemola. First they came for the Jews. Let me know what you think about Muhoozi's madness. My name is Mordecai Morisa. I'll be back here. Stick around. Bye-bye.
Did you enjoy what you just watched?
I'm sure they did.
I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Marissa Live YouTube channel? Thank you.